Our program, much like this facility you can see, is we are under heavy construction. So it's been a long time since I was at the podium. I've seen most of you all at basketball games and those type of events. 2 huge road wins basketball-wise this week too. So congrats to those guys. Won't lie and say that I've missed the podium, but I am excited to be back, not necessarily at the podium, but for this time of year. I think I said this last year, spring ball, fall camp, my favorite times of the year. Selfishly, just because we get to teach. You know, you're not necessarily preparing for an opponent. You get to actually teach fundamentals and be a teacher. We're finishing up our winter workouts. We'll conclude those tomorrow. We had our last kind of team workout this morning, finishing up that. Really kind of a 6-week period. I like our energy. It's a group that I think we're growing in some of the key areas that we were focused on in the winter, and that's really discipline, accountability, mental toughness. And the last one was competitive character, trying to put them in as many situations as we possibly can where there's defined winners and losers. As a team and really as a program right now, winter and then heading into spring, really just our entire focus is on growth and marked improvement both from an individual and a unit team perspective. I want to kind of hit those real quick just so you kind of understand where I'm from. From a team, these are some of the key areas in the spring that we're looking at is turnover margin. So that's a whole team. And offensively, we've got to do a better job of throwing fewer interceptions. That was where our issues were last year. Defensively, we got to force more takeaways. And then special teams, we've got to do a better job of forcing those same takeaways. So a lot of time and effort will be invested in improving that as a whole football team. Red zone, offense, defense, and special teams. Special teams, we've got to do a better job making our field goals in the red zone. Offensively, the focus is making sure we score touchdowns. We've got to do a better job of that. That was part of some of our major issues a year ago. And then defensively, we got to try to make guys kick. And then we didn't have a single takeaway down in the deep red zone last year, so we got to do. And so we're gonna do a lot of that. And that'll start from the first day we go next Tuesday and all through 15 practices. And the last thing is on third and medium. You know, offensively, really successful at third and short. Third and medium was a problem for us last year. Defensively, the same thing. Not as good as we need to be on third and medium. So from a team standpoint, those are going to be some of the 3 main areas. To another point, offensively, as you know, we talked about it a year ago. Really major area that we've got to get better at is rushing the football. And I think we've got a good plan for that. Time will tell. We won't know to that until we line up and play against Florida State. But we've got a plan on how we're going to attack that. Defensively, another priority is we've got to do a better job of defending and minimizing big plays downfield. We did that in the run game, but we had way too many explosive pass plays last year, so that's something we're working on. And then special teams, our punt return unit is something where we've got to make marked improvement. And then the last thing there is just net punting. You know, our net punting numbers, we need to improve on that, and we should. Before we get into the questions, I wanted to this is the first time opportunity to really kind of publicly talk about our new hires. We have 3 new on-field positions that I'm excited about. We had movement. You know, I think we had this last time I was here was in December. Somebody asked me if we were going to have any movement. You never know. Obviously, we did. I don't remember how I answered that, but we had movement. And we brought in 3 quality people. And the people that left our program is we lost quality people. And what we try to do is we try to go out and hire people that are going to make our program better. And just like when a senior leaves or somebody transfers, we're trying to bring in people to not only fill those roles, but also increase and make those roles better. And start off with Jared Parker, who's going to coach our wide receivers and be our offensive coordinator. Known Jared for a long time, played together at the University of Kentucky. I feel, and I'm biased, but I think he's the best wide receiver coach in the country. He's going to be our lead in our offensive room from our managing game plan. And a lot of trust there just because of our history and our personal relationship. He's been in a lot of really good places. He knows what great offenses look like, and he's going to add a great benefit not only to me but to our football program as a whole. And the thing that's common about all 3 of these individuals, I think this is a phenomenal fit for them. Jared's an Eastern Kentucky guy. He was born in Huntington. He coached at Marshall. He understands the state. He understands what we're about. And I can say the same thing about Dante Wright. Dante's younger than Jared, but Dante's from Eastern Kentucky. I like Dante's career path. He's led units. He's been a defense coordinator. He's been a special teams coordinator. He's comfortable in front of people. I like the path he had to take to get here. He's been at Division III. He's been at Division II. He's been at the FCS level. He's been at the Group of 5 level. And so, again, I think his fit, and he's really a teacher. That's what struck me when he came and visited with us, is what type of teacher he was. I think he relates well to all types of kids, and I've been impressed watching him over the first couple weeks. And then our third hire was Jeff Kuntz, who's going to coach our inside linebackers and be our special teams coordinator. Jeff's a guy that had a small relationship with, but more importantly knew a bunch of people that he had worked for and with. And a guy that I kind of had on my list, and I think everybody, and most people in this profession that are doing a good job, they anticipate having to make hires and things like that, and you always keep a list. And he's a guy that I've had on a list for a number of years. I think he's a teacher. Again, I think he's a fit. He had relationships with a lot of the guys that are on our staff, and I'm excited about him leading our special teams. Quality experience. He's been a defensive coordinator. He's led special teams units, and all three of these guys, not only football-wise, but I think they're really good people, first and foremost. And the other thing, too, that I think they're going to add something to recruiting. And I think you're seeing some of those already. Just kind of wrap things up. I'm excited about where we're going. I believe in this group. That belief is stronger now than it was a year ago, just because I know the guys in our program. I have relationships with them. Those take time. Not perfect, but we're getting better. Competition at every spot this spring. We don't have a depth chart, which frustrates Monty, but he's going to deal with it. We won't come out of here where we're going to label starters and all that kind of stuff. I know you all want to ask about individuals, and we'll talk about them. But at every spot, from the guys that made all league to every spot, we're going to compete. Everybody's going to get reps, and they're going to earn playing time. And it's a long time before we line up and play down the Mercedes-Benz Dome. So last thing I want to hit, something that's important to Brooke and I, Read Across America Week. And so a lot of you that have small kids, I'm sure y'all are doing I don't know what Thursday's theme was, Wacky Wednesday yesterday, so I'm sure Tony is all over that. But it's important. I think it's important, and our team's been in a lot of schools this week. They'll continue to be doing that. We don't promote that just because I think that defeats the purpose behind it. But it is. Just want to bring some attention to that. So with that, Greg will open us up with questions.
With the new coach, especially against Parker, how much do you tweak your offense, or is it your offense and Jared's got to get used to it?
Well, we're going to tweak. I mean, anytime you don't get the results that you want, I think the first thing you do is you go into self-reflection mode and in mode of how we can get better, and go out and figure out how the best are doing it and why, and then how do we need to make changes. The fundamental beliefs won't change. I think that I think we're going to simplify some things that we're doing. I think we need to go back to basics. I think last year we may have tried to cover up some deficiencies we had. And when we did that, we got away from some things that I think are really important. So we'll get back to that. That's how we're going to handle it.
Any players going to miss spring with injury, recover from injury?
Yeah, so I'll kind of hit these. I might because I thought about that as I was walking down here. So we're going to have some guys that are limited. I'm not going to get into exactly what their injuries are, but we're going to have some guys that are limited. We will, most everyone will do some type of practice during spring, okay? So we don't have anybody that's just not doing anything. We just got some guys that won't be in full contact drills. Some of the guys that are limited are Chase Barrett. And I'm just going through this kind of by position, so bear with me for a second. Defensively, Usman Kamara, Taj Austin, Jordan Jefferson, Vandarius Cowan, Josh Chandler. I believe that is everyone. So they're all recovering from some type of surgery, and they will be out there, and I think their activity will increase as we go through the spring, but they won't do all the full contact stuff.
Neal, you mentioned wanting to improve the running game. I know a lot goes into what went wrong with it last year, but the running backs that you have coming back, what do you like? What do they need to work on? What are you looking for them?
Yeah, I thought, and sometimes the numbers are deceiving a little bit. I mean, they are what they are, but they're a little bit deceiving. Letty Brown played pretty well last month of the season, really starting the Kansas State game on. Thought he did a nice job of winning one-on-ones, and we really struggled in that aspect last year, but I thought he did a good job. His wins may look a little different than some other people's wins because he may fall forward and run through a tackle rather than make a guy miss, but I thought he won a high percentage of his one-on-ones. I like where he's at right now. And you can see it's been on social media. We tried to give you a little bit of peek into our winter workouts by our assistant coaches, kind of promoting who's doing well, and he's been on those lists a lot. So I like his mentality right now. Tony Mathis is a guy that in our Monday Night Football stuff, he played against Texas Tech some and had some success there at the end of the game last year. But he really showed up in our Monday Night Football. That's a big difference between doing that and then going playing Florida State. But I like his potential. I really liked him in high school. Sinkfield is back in the running back room, and really with the main objective for him is he's got to be better in space, and that's something that he's taken upon himself. You know, I always talk about when we get into spring ball, like you always want to see that growth because there's always some guys that really grow. Like I'm really excited about watching him to see how much improvement he's made in the last 3 months.
For players like him and others that are trying to develop a specific skill, how important are your off-season skill development things? Is that where the base was set to try to take this next step in the spring?
It does. Like when we came back from winter break, which was a longer winter break than we hope we have in the future. But when we come back from we had set downs with every single kid, and we talked about these individual development plans. And so, you know, kind of what are you doing well? What do you need sustained? What are your improvement areas? So we go through those, and then not only do we give those, but then we go, okay, what's our path for attacking these? How are we going to get better? And so a lot of things that we necessarily can't do as coaches that don't happen within the 8-hour rule, that they have to take the initiative and do it on their own. And we don't see the fruits of that because we can't do anything with the ball until we get into spring practice. So that's, as a coach, you're always, you know, you think guys are here, that guys are doing extra work and doing things and really working on their craft, but until you actually go see it, you don't know. So it's kind of one of those unknowns as a coach when you get into spring ball, and there's always going to be people that surprise you. There's going to be the flip side. There's going to be some disappointments too, but there's going to be people that surprise you. But those are huge. Those are huge. I think we are limited so much in football on skill development. You know, we have plenty of time, strength conditioning, all that kind of stuff, but we're really limited skill development. And so we got to there's an emphasis on the guys doing that by themselves.
Now, what do you see from as going ahead for Zach Frazier through his freshman year?
Yeah, first of all, 4-time state champion. That's impressive. I mean, really.
Be careful you don't lose him.
Huh?
Be careful you don't lose him.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. But but that, first of all, that's really impressive. You know, did you guys that cover wrestling? I appreciate wrestling, but I can't say that I know a ton about it. Did he lose? Did he ever lose to a West Virginia kid?
No, it's twice the freshman at once was.
But it was out of state, wasn't it?
I think so.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think they were like tournaments in Tennessee.
Yeah, I think they're out of state. So to go through a whole career and not lose, that's very impressive. So he's a guy that I think physically is going to be able to compete from a strength standpoint. You know, one thing I don't know if we talked about this during the recruiting phase or not. I mean, after signing day, he's got really long arms. He's got huge hands. We're going to start him at center. So there's a little bit higher learning curve when you're playing center because you have to make all the calls and all those type of things. and he's never snapped. Now, he's a kid that I really believe that's probably serious about improving that and getting good. I believe he'll be a good snapper when he gets here, just 'cause I think he's about those things as far as getting better and working on his own. But he's a guy that definitely could get in the mix as a true freshman.
You know, when you got here last year and going into the spring, it seemed like you had so much to do and everything was pedal to the floor 1,000 miles an hour.
Yeah.
How much has changed today versus when we were standing here getting ready for spring?
Well, I think we got. Well, this press conference we probably don't have enough time for what else changed, but I think that the break. While I never want to have that long a break, I think the break that we had during bowl season was really positive for me as the head coach, for me personally, just because you do so much reflection. And everything from January, which is kind of late in the process, through signing day, was really just about next, you know. And so what happens is you get that time to reflect, and you got to look inward. You take ownership on what I could have done better. Same thing I did with the players. Hey, what do we need to sustain? What do we need to improve? And they're for sure. I think right now, I think we've got a better grasp of who we want to be. And I don't know if you can completely answer that question until you've been in a spot, you know, or you've worked with the kids, or you've been the staff, you know. But I think the players have a much better understanding of what we want to look like as a program. What do we want to look like on offense, defense, special teams? What's really important? I think they have a better understanding themselves, because you got to understand, like, and you'll follow. Everybody in this room follows us pretty heavily, so you know our roster. But not only did we go through a coaching change, but our roster was vastly different than the roster that was here in 2018 in all three phases. So when you look at that, not only do our guys have a better understanding what we expect, but they have a better understanding of each other, and they know each other a lot better than they did this time a year ago. Kind of bounced around. I don't know if I answered your question, but I tried to.
What did, as much as you can tell us, what did the early conversation in January with Kendall and Jarrett to pass about, you know, those guys and keep them in a competition mode?
Yeah, I just think both of them, and that's the other thing, kind of go back and you watch all your video during some of that dead time during the break. And I thought both of them did some really, really good things. I think both of them, there's some big-time improvements they can make. And one of them was simple. I just thought they needed to become they needed to challenge each other better and really push each other to be better. That was kind of a demand that I asked of both of them, is just push each other, because you'll get better in the process if you're pushing the other guy. So just like the other spots we have, they're in competition. They're, you know, and it's really, you know, everybody gets reps. So we talk about in spring, it gets a little different when you get out of camp mode in fall, but at this point, everybody gets reps. That's why I don't go into it with depth chart, because sometimes we two-spot things. Y'all seen us practice. We got a bunch of reps going on. But with the quarterbacks, we gave them some things that they needed to really work on in our winter school. From what I'm able to see, is they're more comfortable with what we're doing. I think fundamentally they have proved, me just looking at things that don't involve the ball. And like I said, I think we're going to be better. Like, our receivers are going to be a year older. You know, we were young last year there. We will be able to run the football better. Now, I think we're going to make marginal gains. I think the running game is going to be a process. You know, it's going to be, I don't think we're going to go from where we are, okay, because where we are is where we are. Y'all can look it up. It's bad, okay? But in that top 5 or 1, 2, I don't think we're going to do that. We're going to make marginal improvements. So we're going to be better, which allows them to get help. I think O-line-wise, even though we lost Colton and Kelby, there's going to be more cohesiveness there, just because all those guys are back. Even the guys that redshirted last year, like a Brandon Yates or a Parker Moore, those guys understand the system, and they've been working together longer. So I think we're going to be better around them, which is going to improve their performance as well.